You know, ninjas don't exactly get treated well in the world of anime. In fact, I'd say out of every thing to ever have an anime based around it, ninjas probably get treated the worst. Now, for every good anime about ninjas there are out there, there's 1,500 stinkers like Naruto, Ninja Resurrection, and Ninja Gaiden. And yeah, I'll get to the last two eventually. Hell, even pirates are treated better in anime, since the two most well-known anime about pirates are critically acclaimed masterpieces.
Enter Ninja Scroll. You see, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, anime was niche, and the term otaku hadn't exactly become commonplace in the English language. However, manga entertainment sought out to fix that, with this little gem that came down the pipeline. I first watched this when my brothers had rented a subtitled VHS from Blockbuster. Snuck downstairs late at night, slipped the tape into the VHS, and spent the entire night watching what was the single most badass cartoon I had ever laid eyes on.
Oh, by the way, before we begin, there's something I want to talk about that every old school anime fan has fond memories of. And that's the trailers.
Since the internet wasn't as big at the time, this was our only way to find out about upcoming anime. On VHSs, these would be before the main feature, and on DVDs, they'd be in the special features menu. But watching the trailers, especially on stuff distributed by manga, is something that brings many nostalgic tears to my eyes. And who can forget the classic KMFDM song, Ultra, that manga used in the trailers and loved so much that they even used it in their English dub of Street Fighter II the motion picture.
Hell, even Ben the Sage uses it as his theme song. And hell, if he didn't, I'd use it. Yeah, thanks Sage for taking that away from me. Nah, it's kidding. I'm just kidding. I love you. Dude, you're awesome. Even if you do look like the main character from the Critic.
The film wastes no time in introducing us to our hero, Jubei Kibagami, who is fresh off from a job nomming a jelly-filled donut when he's attacked by three men who attack him because he cost them 300 gold pieces. Yeah, and here's where we get to see exactly how much of a badass he is. You don't fuck with a guy whose surname that roughly translates to God's Fang. Turns out there's an epidemic spreading throughout the land, wiping out all that it infects. And naturally, the Shogun doesn't take this very seriously.
That's the government for you.
The Shogun changes his mind and sends a team of crack ninja to check out the area where the disease seems to have hit. It's during their briefing that we meet our female lead, Kagero. And you can guess what happens to all those poor whittle ninjas. They get attacked by some guy who looks like a Bobo from Double Dragon. A Bobo has the ability to make his body rock hard, as explained by Jubei later on.
Go back and report to the Chamberlain! Well, you still can!
Looks like he's been disarmed!
I get it!
Shut it, Nappa.
And what happens to our heroine? Well, it wouldn't be a 90s anime without someone being sexually assaulted at least once. And it turns out she drew the short straw. It's 90s anime for you. Really, if you don't like rape scenes in anime, don't watch 90s anime. It's...
Shut up. And perhaps I'll let you live just a little bit longer. Don't let it cross your mind that I wouldn't mind raping a dead girl. Better.
You're gonna have to open your mouths much, much wider if you really want to swallow each other.
However, Jubei isn't too far away, and a fight between him and Abobo quickly breaks out, with Jubei giving Abobo a splitting headache. Odd, considering that Abobo's body is said to be indestructible. Perhaps something weakened him from the inside, and we'll find out later. After the fight, Jubei takes a soak, encounters a snake chick, and is face-fucked with exposition by an old man who asks him for help and then poisons him, using the antidote as incentive to get Jubei's help. Because when you want someone's help, trying to fucking kill them is usually the best means to convince them. Jubei then has a nun go exorcist on him, and it turns out that the nun was actually just a castaway skin set up by the snake lady, who then attacks Jubei. And although it seems Jubei's nuts are in a vice, Kagero manages to sneak up on the snake lady because the plot decided that she needed to be in this film again.
Ooh, what else you got in there?
Yeah, that snake just came out of her vagina. You saw that. Pussy python.
It's after this scene that we find out that Kagero has an immunity to poisons because her body literally is... You see, she's kind of the Shogun's personal poison tester. So, yeah. She tastes poisons, and thus she is kind of toxic. Yeah, that means all of her bodily fluids. That's what killed Abobo, and why the snake bite from just a few scenes ago had no effect on her. Keep this fact in the back of your mind, as it plays a very interesting part in the third act. As the group travels, they find a village filled with dead bodies and a poisoned well. This is the plague that was talked about early on. The well was poisoned, and the story of a virus was made up to keep anyone who may have been curious away. It's actually kind of smart. But the group is then attacked by Mushizo, one of the lords of Kamon who can summon bees. Mushizo proves to be quite a challenge for Jubei, but is bested when Jubei manages to force him into the nearby river, which causes the insects in Mushizo's body to desperately sting their way out.
Fuck, I can't even use a Metal Gear Solid 3 joke here. Fuck you, Sage. Fuck you and your Jay Sherman-looking ass. I must say, I really like how the fights in this movie are fought out with thought and strategy instead of sheer brute force. It makes a fight more interesting when the hero can't just muscle his way out of a problem and instead has to think of a rational conclusion to the conflict. Pretty much every shonen anime but One Piece and Dragon Ball Z could stand to learn a thing or two from this one fight.
Yeah, this here is the whole fight with the blind swordsman. Now, there's a reason why I'm showing you the whole fight and not talking about it, because I could just leave it at, this fight's awesome, but that would be an understatement. To say that this fight is one of the best fights in all of anime is actually an insult. It is quite literally one of the best fights in anything ever. Which is why Ninja Scroll is such an amazing fucking movie. Because even if you're not an anime fan, you can just watch it as a solid action movie. It's not just a really, really, really good film with a lot of amazing animation and great voice acting and an amazing original soundtrack. It has some of the best choreographed fights of all time.
Get out! It can't be.
Our heroes arrive at a port town where they run into the old geezer again, who tells them that Gemma is transporting a shit ton of stolen gold, and that with that gold he will be rich enough to overthrow the current government. But this exposition is cut short by a quick skirmish with another lord of Kamon, Shijima. Shijima kidnaps Kagero, and Jubei quickly pursues him in the name of Pussy. And Jubei has another brief fight with both Shijima and a mind-controlled Kagero, and after the battle, Kagero offers her body to Jubei.
Just what the doctor ordered. Pussy. Now, this is interesting and kind of dumb at the same time. It's interesting because the whole time they've been foreshadowing this. Earlier, the old man tells Kagero that the poison in her body will counteract the venom that is currently coursing through Jubei's veins. It's a very interesting solution to the movie's problem. However, Kagero has legitimately fallen in love with Jubei after a single day of knowing him. Yeah, isn't it a bit soon? Okay, I'm sure it's just following the action movie trope of the hero getting the girl, but it still feels kind of forced.
What are you doing? You'll die unless you take me. Why not? Wait, Jubei!
You're seriously gonna turn that the fuck down? Like, really? You're not gonna go for that? Why? Like, no, seriously, This is hurting. Seriously, stop it, movie. I mean, you have one chance to make this trip go from shit to not half bad, and you turn it down.
Jubei then joins the old man to foil Gemma's get-rich-quick. During the initial stages of their plan, the Mochizuki forces that Kagero called earlier arrive, and it turns out to actually be Gemma in disguise. Yeah, he just flexes his facial muscles into place. Oh, and Kagero gets stabbed from behind. Jubei sees this and goes on a rampage, shouting Gemma's name all the while murdering millions upon millions of peons. Jubei finds Kagero before she dies, and here's where her falling in love with him finally makes sense and sounds far less stupid and compulsive.
Jubei treated her more like a human being and not as a tool, which is what she was treated as prior. He was always concerned about her well-being because he's just that kind of a person. He treated her the way she deserved to be treated, as a person, whereas before, her clan and the shogun had used her merely as a disposable weapon. Someone to fight and die and not matter when everything is said and done. You see, she legitimately fell in love with him because he made her feel important. He made her feel like she was worth something for the first time in her life, and that, something as simple as being appreciated, is more than reason enough to love someone. This is actually a really touching moment, and I have to say, for an action movie, this is actually a really touching and deep scene, even if there isn't much dialogue going on here.
Jubei gives her one last kiss farewell and heads off to kick Gemma's ass. And like a fucking boss, Jubei helps the old man use Katie Kaboom over here to help sink the ship. With the ship on fire and about to sink, Jubei and Gemma begin their epic final battle. And holy fuck is it epic. This is the polar opposite of Fist of the North Star's final battle. Every hit feels like it has weight to it, and you can really feel the impact as for the first half of the fight, Jubei gets his ass whooped by the much larger and much stronger Gemma. Oh, and remember how Gemma flexed his face into a different shape? Well, he gets his arm cut off and literally just flexes it back on. Yeah, just sticks the severed arm onto the stump, flexes his bicep, and it's on. I don't think this is regeneration, this is just his arm knowing who's the fucking boss.
You should know by now. I have become as immortal as a true demon. Is that so?
Jubei gets tired of getting the shit kicked out of him and starts to really use his head. No, seriously. After Jubei cuts him in half, Gemma heals himself Majin Buu style and is then cased in molten gold, which is ultimately what does him in, causing him to fall to the bottom of the ocean.
Gemma! Burn in your golden hell!
Bet you're rethinking that whole immortality thing now, aren't you, pal? The ship sinks and we end on Jubei walking off into the horizon as the film then fades to black and to the credits. So, Ninja Scroll. Timeless classic or outdated schlock that's only fondly remembered by people wearing rose-tinted glasses. Both, kind of. The action is top-notch, with fights that come down to strategy and clever writing over sheer brute force. The characters are well-written and have unique personalities, and Jubei is a legitimately good person who is actually concerned for his friends. The dialogue, well-written, and the dub is actually quite good, especially considering it comes from the dark ages of anime dubs. The biggest problem is the dub, and really, it's not bad, it's actually quite good. To put it simply, this is the best thing I have ever reviewed. I paid $30 for this copy. You can find it much cheaper, and you know what? I don't even care that I paid that much. I know I could have gotten it cheaper. But this movie is just so damn good that even $50 isn't too much to pay for it. And lastly, the animation in this film is incredible. It makes me jizz. It's so fluid and alive that it's actually amazing to think that someone painstakingly drew out every single scene. It's films like this that make anime what it is today. And it's this fluid, almost lifelike animation that really pushes this from being a good anime to being a fucking amazing anime. And really, it's hard to expect anything but greatness from Yoshiaki Kawajiri. I nearly said his name wrong. I did say his name wrong. This movie helped push anime further into the mainstream. Say what you will about what Speed Racer and Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon and Battle of the Planets did for anime. All those did was get anime into the hands of children, which is good. But Ninja Scroll pushed it into the hands, hearts, and heads of the adults who would eventually go on to create a whole new generation of otaku. I want to keep this positivity train rolling, so next month we're going to look at another nostalgic classic, Kiki's Delivery Service. I'll see you next time.
夜は始まったばかり何もいらない君が笑ってそばにいればいい遠い夏二人で歩いた浜辺に座り